There are certain words and sounds that we don't just hear, we feel them to our core. Some fill us with a sense of pure, primal fear. Others can instantly transport us to a specific time of day. While others are just infuriating. But there are two words, just two, that can evoke a complex cocktail of grit, exhaustion, and quiet determination in the soul of every educator. Term 3. My name's Michael Murphy, and this is episode 13 of Vacilando, and it is the marathon term coming out of winter. And today we're taking our step into term 3 by asking Luke Ritchie, principal of St Andrew's School. How are you? You're a little bit shorter haired.
Yes, I am, but it's growing fast, so that's good.
Talk us through that. What's going on?
Well, we had a day of giving as a community where we got around each other and the school and raised some funds to restore our beautiful old hall. And I said that if we hit the target, the deputy, Dave Hodges, and I would shave our heads. And we exceeded the target, and so the clippers came out at the first assembly of term 3, back to skin. Thankfully, my hair grows fast, so it's looking better now.
So are you still side by side on the treadmill with shaved heads now?
Yeah, I've been wearing a beanie just to keep the head warm.
Fair enough. That is the thing about term 3, and I think something that I think it's a really interesting thing that I'd like to talk to you about today is what term 3 means, because it's
Yeah.
it's a notorious term, right?
Oh, we're halfway through already, and it feels like we only just started.
And that's even from you, because teachers, students, it just always has this rep. So what does term 3 mean for Luke?
Term 3 in the principal seat is a very complex term because you are consistently bouncing between being present and visible in your community while your head and your planning and a massive percentage of your thinking time is devoted to the coming 12-month period. So we're in the thick of staffing for 2026, budgeting for 2026, looking at enrollment projections, starting to plan capital projects, while we're now having trades on site who have commenced the 3 capital projects for this year. While we've got heaps of normal, fun school life stuff happening, Grandparents' Day coming up, Parents' Association quiz night Friday night, all that stuff that's going on. So it's just a constant bounce between the current and the future, more so than any term.
Because in term 1, we spoke about your kind of adventurous, I think you called it a trail run, because you
Yeah.
describe yourself as an adventurer, right?
Well, I'd like to think that, yeah.
Self-described adventurer.
Self-described aging adventurer, yes.
Look, you don't need to add that word in, but adventurer all the same. Okay,
Yeah.
so, and you spoke about a trail run. It's, you've got your energy gels and everything like that. But in term 1, the feeling I got was that you were running at the pace of your school. You weren't 15 steps ahead, you weren't 15 steps behind. You're really making sure you maintain that pace of where your school's at.
Yeah.
Does that differ in term 3? Are you maintaining a different pace now as you're, because in my mind you are running to the top of the next hill just to check in, then you've got to run back to the group, then you've got to go back, and that's sort of the
Yeah.
picture it's in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's a fair description of term 3. Added to that is the complexity of sickness in schools in term 3 due to the weather and the seasons changing and hay fever starting. And we like every other school at the moment, we got sickness in our community, staff, parents, students, which adds an added layer of complexity, and it always happens early to mid term 3 consistently, and that happens everywhere. So yeah, it's a real juggle. I love term 3 in so many ways because a big percentage of my time does have to be focused on strategy and has to be focused on implementing strategy in the future, which is, the sweet spot for me. I love that, building capacity in people and organizations and teams. So, having lots of robust conversations with the exec team at the moment around 26 and beyond. As a board, we're having, great conversations. The board's working on thinking about not only towards 2030, but beyond 2030 and what that looks like. And so there's lots of work happening at that for the governors of our school, having great conversations about that, which I'm privileged to be a part of as well. So, yeah, it's just a constant run up that hill, run back down the hill, run up the hill multiple times every day.
When I reckon it was about 2015 or so, I was on a school camp with, we're in the Coorong. It's a week long hike in early December, late November, that kind of time. So
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. And one of the group leaders, he was a bit of a risk averse kind of operator. So
Hmm.
he kept leaving the group, running up the hill, checking where we were, coming back to the group, going back and forth. He ended up getting medevaced out because he was
Wow.
dehydrated.
Oh,
And
gosh.
I'm not professing doom on you here, but it is so much work to play in more than one space. And we've known from speaking to you about how many different roles the principal wears.
Yeah.
Sorry, how many different hats the principal wears and how many different roles you have. But this term, where you set your weeks, your days, your minutes so intentionally,
Mm.
but you also have to be so prepared for, actually, if that person's not ready for a strategic chat today, I've got to run back from the top of the hill to the group with them. How much more dynamic do you need to be in term 3 as a principal compared to the other ones?
Yeah, I think you have to be more intentional with your time. Like, you are always intentional with your time as a principal, but it's heightened because you might have a last minute change, as you've identified, because someone might be away sick or someone's dealing with something else, and you have to then stop, think, reflect. So for me, I use post-it notes, Michael, as you know, and term 3 is when I go through most of my post-it notes because there are lots of changes in my daily schedule, in my weekly schedule, but the time has to be used well and intentionally, and you can't afford for anything to drop off. Hence the post-it notes. I have also started moving towards. I've got a notebook which I haven't used for many many years, but particularly in term 3, I use my notebook where I'm bouncing between going, oh, here's an idea that we could explore for next year. Head of Wellbeing and I, at the moment, for example, are doing a lot of work on thinking about rites of passage at St Andrew's School and what they look like. So for me, I'll have a rite of passage idea drop in my mind that I want to then have a conversation with Donna, who's our wonderful head of wellbeing, about. Typically, I could probably remember that in terms 1, 2, and 4. Term 3, I have to write it down. That's maybe a reflection on the speed of term 3.
I think that's fair. And that sort of dumping ground, sometimes you need to just throw your idea there and get it out of your head because it needs to be more present in this new space
Yeah.
so that you can be intentional for that. You speak so much of the lunch with your 3-year-olds. If you're going to sit down and have lunch with your 3-year-olds, you
Yeah.
can't have 45 things bouncing around your mind.
No, you can't. That's exactly right. And if you want to be an intentional and present husband and dad, you can't have a million things, work things running through your mind when you get home. So, yeah, everything's heightened in term 3. It's wonderful, and I'm now, I'm match fit for term 3. I'm heading towards my 10th year of being principal, so I don't feel uncomfortable in term 3. But I know it's a term where I have to keep looking after myself. I have to keep going to the gym when it's easy. My alarm went off at 5:20 this morning. I did not want to get out of bed. But I know halfway through term 3, I want to be fit and strong and well. So I've got to get out. and I've got to go to the gym. So, being intentional is very important at all moments for all of us, but particularly in term 3 for principals.
What the tone of your, I guess the tone of your school at the moment? How do you feel that it's similar or different to what it was 12 months ago? At this moment, are we thinking similar kind of feel? Are we at a different pace? And indeed, how do you know? Like, what are the things you look for to kind of get a pulse check of your school?
Yeah, great question. We are 12 months further progressed than we were 12 months ago. That's a really silly statement in some ways, but it's a factual statement. So we're 12 months further down that trail running path. We are traveling with a great sense of calm and purpose and intentionality. We are focused on delivering our strategic plan. Whereas this time last year, the strat plan was still quite new. Now it's embedded, and we're having conversations with the leadership team. So our structure at the moment and moving forward is we have our executive leadership team, then we have the broader leadership team, and our broader leadership team of 14 people is now 12 months progressed on where they were. So their understanding of their vision, mission, purpose as a team is really clear now, whereas 12 months ago they were just developing it. So I guess clarity and calm then feeds through the rest of the school. And we're moving forward purposefully, which means that we know what we say yes to and we know what we say no to.
Some of those elements to me, I can picture exactly what you're talking about, and there's other
Yep.
ones where I want to be a little bit pedantic and say, well, actually, how do you know? Like, what does more clarity, what does,
What does it look like?
yeah, or feel, I mean,
Feel like?
well,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
because,
we.
like, genuinely, how do you know? Like, what are the kind of leading indicators for you in a meeting where you go, all right, I know this is a purposeful one?
Yeah.
There's lagging indicators that you'll probably see in 2030. But what are these ones you go, all right, beautiful, we are on the right path of this trail run?
So we've been working closely with an organisation called Leading Teams now for 3 years, and we create essential agreements for each of the teams that they work with. So a fresh essential agreement 12 months ago is now quite embedded and lived out. So, for example, the leadership teams talking a lot about being child first in our action, being open and honest and robust in our conversations, playing to our strengths. So, where you might have had just conversations about those themes 12 months ago, we can now sit down as a team and identify where we're doing that or challenge each other if we've forgotten that. And I throw myself in that mix as well. So, you're seeing the implementation phase lived out rather than just talked about. When I meet parents outside, we're having great conversations around the progress being made on capital works that have hit the ground running. Whereas 12 months ago, we were talking about, oh, it'd be nice to do these works. What do we think? Can we afford it? Can we fit the work schedule in? And now we're doing the work. So I think it's that shift from conversations about the work to implementing and doing the work, and that being done in a structured, calm, and purposeful manner. That's where you create this sense of, yeah, we are comfortable where we're at and it's a nice place to be, and we're focused on our students and they're doing well, and we're looking at all of our assessment data and we're tracking the growth and progress of every child, every learner, because that's what we do here. We do it with evidence, we don't guess. And the systems that are in place have now been embedded for a number of years. So it's normal work, it's not new work.
I think this is probably something I see a lot in a variety of schools, is this sense of, yeah, we've embedded our strat plan, and there is a bit of guesswork to know whether that's the case. And effectively, when we do our new strat plan, that's when we work out whether we achieved it or not. But you're measuring it in the conversations with parents. You're measuring it in the and sort of taking ownership of that feel. does everyone in the community have a sense of ownership over that as well? Like, do parents know that their conversations have matured with you, or do you kind of uh,
Oh,
own that
yeah,
idea?
I think parents feel the calm. You know, when you go into an established business that knows what it's about, and is delivering on what it's about, you do feel that. There's that tangible feeling as you walk in, and our parents feel that here. I mean, we don't win everything we do. We never will. Generally speaking, though, we're in a really nice place and are receiving great feedback from stakeholders on that. I think the fact that we are not trying to be everything for everyone is also really important, and being comfortable in that space is important. Another measure when we talk about us implementing the work of the organisation and bringing the strat plan to life is looking at our enrolment projections. That's a tangible measure for a school. And then that sets the tone for everything that we've been talking about for term 3, planning, budgeting, etc. And we are now touring families for 2028, 2029 starts. That's a big shift where families are having to get that much lead time in order to secure a spot at St Andrews in our early learning centre and then into our early years program. So the enrolment growth is a tangible measure that is showing that what we're selling, for want of a better term, is resonating with people.
So as an established business that you're kind of talking about, an established school, and you know one of the most high profile, if not the most high profile primary school in South Australia, one of the most well respected, if not the most respected primary school in South Australia. It's easy to look resilient when you're in a position of privilege. It's easy to look brave when you're in a position of privilege, even if you've earned that privilege. It's easier to look like that. And sometimes we kind of say, that child, they're a really resilient kid, when really they haven't actually faced any adversity.
Yeah, I think what great schools, community groups, businesses do when they're in a spot of feeling comfortable is they don't look to reinvent themselves, but they continually look to how they can do things better. We have those conversations every day, genuinely. Like just this morning with a couple of members of the leadership team, we were saying, yeah, this is working really well. How can we make it better? How can we make it more impactful for our students? How can we ensure that we're engaging parents in a more effective way when we're having these type of conversations? So for us, it's not about going, oh, we're doing a good job, so we'll now sit back and take the foot off. It's going, we're doing a good job. How can we do a better job? And we are constantly thinking that. And that's not just an off the cuff remark. It's a fact. We are constantly talking about how we can do things better, how we can refine. What are we missing? That's a question that we ask ourselves a lot. What are we missing? Because we don't know everything. So what are we missing and what can we do better? They're constant drivers. And I guess that's why principal life is so interesting because even when you're doing things and some things well, constantly there's also this expectation that you will continue to improve. Boards expect that. That's their job, is to challenge and ask questions. And we've got a great group of governors here, board directors, who ask great questions and challenge and say, how can we do this differently? How can we do this better? We're looking at how we manage risk as an organisation, for one example, at the moment. And we do that really robustly and effectively, but we want to be better. So we've gone out and engaged an external expert to come in and help us be better. We're constantly doing that across the school, and it's because we want to be doing the best that we can for the young people that we serve.
Almost every school would want that. Every school would say, yeah, we want to keep getting better, we want to keep improving, right?
Yeah.
I think that works for a principal. Yeah, I want my school to get better and better. I think boards do that really, really well, because that's
Mm.
sort of, you effectively, you're self-selecting that position. But then you've got other people who actually, they're really, really happy with where their group's at. They're doing this really effectively. They're really proud of where they're at, and challenging you to get better when you're in a position where you're pretty happy with where you're at can sometimes really challenge someone's identity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance that? How do you nail that sort of, yep, I really value you today and I want to really value you tomorrow, and that's going to be a different person or an improvement? How do you go about that?
I think you've got to acknowledge what's happening well. So you don't just brush it off. Say, hey, this team of teachers, and we have a very strong professional learning team, so we call it PLT culture here at St Andrews, where Marianne, our assistant principal, meets every week with our PLTs, and they talk about what's working really well. They talk about what they want to explore, and they talk about things they want to do better. So normalizing the culture of celebrating success, but not becoming complacent in success, is a really important part of that. An example, just last week, some trend data came out nationally around NAPLAN, and it was looking at different genders and how boys doing NAPLAN, girls doing NAPLAN, and we got approached by the advertiser to talk about the fact that based upon that set of data, boys were doing quite well with NAPLAN. And we saw that as an opportunity rather than to celebrate that. We actually saw that as an opportunity to feed into the dialogue around NAPLAN to say, actually, we think NAPLAN should be about individual growth and every child doing their best and being supported to progress at their own rate of pace. And so instead of going to the advertiser and saying, yeah, hey, woohoo, go us, we're like, no, let's actually try and change this dialogue. And they were really gracious in printing some really positive lines from Marianne, who did the interview on behalf of the school, around trying to change that dialogue that NAPLAN should be about every child doing their best and it being a test to measure their growth, not beating up independent schools or government schools because sometimes boys don't do well in the data set. So we're always looking for different ways to change or improve the narrative around what's happening here, but also in the sector more broadly.
So I think that's a real moment of bravery there, because the safe thing to do is, because we're concerned, well, not concerned about enrollments, but we're thinking about enrollments. That's a measure. So if we're getting really good results, we'll celebrate that and we'll put it in the advertiser. That's good. That's good publicity. That works really well. But the brave move is actually, hey, you know that thing that we are absolutely thriving in? We want to challenge that a bit. And that's sort of the position that you as a school take, right?
Yeah, and saying, so Marianne said, basically what it comes down to is knowing our students and personalising learning for them and focusing on their individual growth. And ultimately, that's our core business as a school. And if we get some great results for our students, then we're happy for our students. If we don't, then we interrogate that data and see how we can do it better. And so, we're trying to constantly lean into being a better version of St Andrews for our current and future students. And if that means that we're trying to change some dialogue along the way, then we're pretty committed to that as well.
I think this is something that I really admire about the way that you and St Andrews kind of speak to NAPLAN in this case, is because you've stuck with your convictions on that. It's really easy when the results aren't great to say, oh, NAPLAN's just a point in time. It measures a narrow measure, yada, yada, yada. But for the majority of schools and systems, if the results were really good, I don't reckon they'd be dismissing them with the same vigor, right? But you have a position on what NAPLAN is. You have a position on another set of data, a suite of data points that represents what you as a school think of that child.
Mm-hmm.
And whether the results are good, bad, indifferent, the same, unequal, whatever it is, you interrogate it with the same kind of lens and look to build the same kind of set of structures to improve in the future, irrespective of what the numbers say. So your view of the test or the view of the data doesn't change just because of what the data looks like. It's
And just because a child might absolutely nail NAPLAN, it doesn't mean all of a sudden that we can go, oh, we don't have to worry about that kid and their learning. We go, hey, well done in that single assessment. That's great. Let's correlate that with our other data sets and let's ensure that you, as a high achieving kid, get the support that you need to be the best version of yourself. And equally so, if there's a child that the data identifies that they're struggling with something, what supports can we put in place to help that kid be the best version of themselves? There are many ways that we can collect evidence to show the progress, and maybe that's missing in the conversation. I reflect upon myself as a learner. I could sit down and talk the legs off a chair about anything that I was learning about and progressing my knowledge and understanding in as a school student. But if I had to sit down in a sterilized environment with a piece of paper in front of me, something in my brain just freaked out and you didn't get the best results from me and you didn't get a deep understanding of my learning through that type of assessment. But if you sat down with me, I could tell you all about it. So I think we need to be, when we're talking about tracking student growth, and schools do this so well, and teachers do this so well. They have a different way of approaching it with different kids. Yes, I still have to do my exams. Yes, I still had to do my tests. That's fine. But I knew that my teacher would also make time to observe what I was doing, to take some notes, to interview me, to learn about where I was at. So I think that broad approach to assessment is really important for all learners, including learning how to sit down and do an exam, learning how to sit down under pressure and deliver some form of outcome. That's an important skill to develop. But also doing that side by side with other ways of gaining a deep understanding of where children are at with their learning is important.
So, as a final question, 10-year into principalship, Luke Ritchie, what does NAP Luke look like? What does your board? How do they ascertain whether you are thriving as principal of St Andrews?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the board.
So do you not know? Because that's that's a legitimate kind of question of like, do you know what they are looking at?
Yeah, I know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I know what they're looking for, but I'm not a member of the board, so I can't speak on their behalf. But what I can say is that I have got great clarity around what is documented for me in my role as principal, all the stuff that obviously most people would assume a principal does. Control of budgets, control of enrolment data, all that stuff, which is then I then delegate to different leaders in my team. My board have got some really clear expectations that they want this beautiful school to be the best version of itself for our current and future students. And so, in alignment with the strategic plan, we are pursuing that wholeheartedly each and every day and having great conversations about it at a board level, at a leadership level, with our student representative council, because student voice here is really important. We are leaning into that strategic plan towards 2030, but also really starting to think about beyond 2030. So for us, we are starting to play with lots of new and exciting concepts that we're not sharing broadly at the moment, but we're considering because we are really proud of the work that we're doing. We're really humble in that as well at the same time. We know that our product, for want of a better term, doesn't suit everyone, and that's okay. We can't be everything to everyone, and we're comfortable in that space. But we want to be the best version of St Andrews now and into the future. So for me as principal, that's my number one each and every day. As I go and have lunch with the ELC kids, as I go and do site works inspections with the site manager from G-Force who are doing our capital works, as I'm chatting with Chelsea about 2026 and staffing levels. That's what I'm committed to doing, and that's what the board wants me to be doing as well.
Halfway through term 3, a lot of sickness, lots of running up and down that hill. Congratulations on getting through this far, and thanks for taking us through your moment in time today, Luke Ritchie.
Thanks, Michael. Always great to chat.
My name is Michael Murphy, and this has been episode 13 of Vacilando with Luke Ritchie. Stay tuned now for a special sneak preview of Dear Stardust.
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 Dr. Phil Cummins, thank you so much for your letter, and thank you so much for joining us on Dear Stardust.
Oh, Michael, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation to both contribute a letter and be here today. I'm so chuffed.
So if it can play a role in liberating character, I think it will leave a beautiful mark. If it diminishes character, then the opposite.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Michael, it's a really beautiful way of putting it. I couldn't agree with you more. I just think it's important to note that there's a lot of folk out there who are advocating for the way as being a sort of a technical adherence to what they perceive as a set of truths about how we should teach and how learning occurs. They end up focusing on trying to make the teaching perfect, but that they forget that the learner will never be perfect, and that what we're trying to do here is form somebody who, in their imperfection, can thrive in the world.